has football finally found a value in taking note of set pieces? Martin, you're diving into this in your piece this weekend, is that right?
I am, and what's interesting, what's significant is all the purists, if we can call them, the Peps and Klopps and Artetas, are now on it when it comes to set pieces. Arsenal was sort of top of the list.
Klopp's been on it for ages. He hired a throwing coach.
But back in the day, it was almost the percentage managers. If we think of Graham Taylor, I played under Graham Taylor, and honestly, I've never been involved in anything like it in terms of the set pieces. We kicked the ball out of play from the kickoff straight. It was a practice play, and then they'd only have, they'd have less players on the pitch for us to win the ball back. We'd put it into those areas. So we had a free kick, a corner, a throw in, and we had a sequence of moves, a sequence of movements for every set piece. My job was to flick it on at the near post, and it was very, very successful. You could say, was he ahead of his time? Not enough time for me, not being critical, but I'm going to say it, was spent passing the ball, which we could have done better. But now they're doing both, aren't they? So your Peps, they want to be best in every area, which is daunting for the teams now that rely on set pieces to be successful.
When you were the chairman of a football club, did you ever sort of sit there and think to yourself, having, as you'd already mentioned, been in America and seen the way that they construct plays in the NFL, did you ever think to yourself, why don't we put a greater stock by set plays? Why haven't we got someone who specifically deals with these routines?
But you tended to have people and expertise surrounding you, and it was the manager's responsibility to develop and evolve that. I often wondered, I have to say, why people couldn't do certain things. And I was always curious as to see why young talent coming through like Wayne Routledge or other players could only kick with 1 foot, and what we were doing with them, and wondering why it wasn't a sort of motivation to make sure they kicked with 2 foot. And it was interesting because I was talking to Danny Murphy about Paul Ince the other day, and how Paul Ince came into Liverpool when Murphy was a young player, and one of the first things that Ince said to him was, start kicking with your left foot a little bit better because you get in the right positions, and if you start kicking with your left foot, you score more goals. Look, the bottom line is the sum of marginal gains. This is the sort of philosophy that Dave Brailsford is apparently going to bring to Manchester United, which is looking at all the moving parts. We've had, set piece coaches in football for a very long time. I remember, again, going down amnesia lane, but watching Gareth Bell playing against us when he was a very young player at Southampton, and people telling us, this kid, by the way, this kid can do something. And he hit a ball from 35 yards, took the goalkeeper in the back of the net with it. Because clearly that was a skill that he'd worked on. And it's something, and you hear about Beckham over the years, he didn't get to be the player that he was by not practicing what he does.
James Ward-Prowse.
Of course, and it's always been corners, set pieces.
Always been important,
Always been important. And now we move into every aspect of the game, from goalkeeping, distribution, through to, throw-in coaches, through into a whole raft of different disciplines inside the sport that are part and parcel of it.
I think it's important that the message maybe from the set pieces comes from another voice, because if you think about the time limits through the week, so you're a manager that wants to defend, what's the emphasis? Do you want to attack? And I think then if you get to do set pieces, the players can switch off, can get bored with it. But
you've got to join everybody in, because you saw on the other side of that equation, you saw Nottingham Forest's ridiculous reaction to Ivan Toney and his movement of the ball a yard either side.
It was so naive. It was unbelievable.
And you've got players laying on the ground. Has anybody actually stopped a ball from going underneath the wall yet from that position? But
with the draft excluder?
Yeah, no. Absolutely, with the draft excluder. And, I suppose you've got to join it up. So it's one thing having a different voice, but that different voice has got to work in conjunction, both from a defensive and offensive
mindset as well, isn't it? You want a wall that cheats. Yeah. You want a wall that recognises when the ball's being moved. They were all acting stupidly.
That's the maturity aspect of
it. You can complain about the refereeing, but at the end of the day, the players need to be more professional.
We've got Ben Whittaker about to come in. I wanted to just quickly touch on Crystal Palace, because they're live on talkSPORT on Monday night. They play Chelsea. It's a massive game for them, especially after Chelsea's performance in midweek. I don't think many people saw
signs of green shoots for you there, Chelsea?
I thought they played very, very well, actually.
Good enough players, just not being coached enough, I don't think.
Well, I think maybe to do with Thiago Silva not being in the team allowed them to squeeze the pitch a little bit better, more pace in the back line.
You suggesting that Thiago Silva's finished?
Well, it's finished. He's 39.
Get his wife out there. She seems to have more backbone currently.
She's apologised on.
Well, she, come on, it's a bit silly. A bit silly what she said.
Assured safety though for Hodgson. Everyone thought that under Roy will definitely keep you in the league. Is that a little bit more fragile now because Elise is injured?
Well, it's not enhanced by it, is it? And he hasn't helped himself in certain arguments where he took Eze off against Everton in the FA Cup and then went up to Arsenal and got their heads handed to them. No, it's not easy, and the fans have got their own view. And I wrote an article this week about their view on Parish and Palace and Hodgson. I maintain that the optics, which I hate the expression because I think it's a lazy way of looking at the world, what you want to look at is the substance rather than the crappy optics.
Yeah.
But the point is that taking Roy on for another season showed no ambition in the future. So Palace have got two problems. They haven't got the here and now, and they haven't got the future. So the fans are going, we've got nothing to cling on. We've got nothing to cling on because the team right now is crap, and we've got no future. So that's why there's this disenfranchised outlook. I still think Palace will be fine, but I have to say the Lutons of the world and their ascent are making it look a little bit more wobbly because they've bought themselves. I thought the bottom three would be the top three that came up from the Championship last year, i.e. Luton, Burnley and Sheffield United. Burnley and Sheffield United for me are gone, right? Luton are the ones in the argument. And in that instance, that could prove problematic. But we've seen it before with Palace. We've seen it before with Hodgson. Palace have been in the Premier League for 10 years. Hodgson has the wherewithal and the know-how to get them through this. But it won't be easy this time because I think they're lacking firepower and lacking quality.
Beating teams around you. I'm just looking at their results.
Well, they beat Sheffield, didn't they?
Yes, very important. They beat Brentford. But apart from that, it's been a dreadful period for Palace.
A lot of draws in there, though. A few draws in there.
Yeah, they're going to... I mean, they need to get those two star players on the pitch. And it looked last week, certainly against Brighton, that there was this feeling of expectation where they were going to get beat without them on the pitch.
But Roy said something silly as well. I mean, he addresses the media afterwards by being irascible about the questioning of the intensity of the playing squad by saying, well, you saw the second half. Well, that's bloody great, Roy. You're 3-0 down at half-time. You need the intensity from the first whistle, not the 46th. He doesn't like
doing the interviews afterwards.
No, I know he doesn't. But that's why he gets so much dough. That's why the managers get so much dough, because of the media relationship.
Well, he'll be talking to us on Monday night. Crystal Palace against Chelsea is live. Crystal Palace with their worst points tally at this stage of the season in 5 years, and with a devastating injury to Michael Olise.
What's Chelsea's worst points total in the last 10 years, 20 years?
Last season, they finished 12th last season.
But is their points total now, at this moment in time, less than it was last year?
No.
And Sam, would you be surprised if Chelsea got beat by Palace?
Jim White and Simon Jordan. Monday to Friday mornings from 10 on AM, on DAB, via the talkSPORT app and on your smart speaker. talkSPORT.